Questions for me?
And who are you? My name is Peter Ivanovich. I'm from the Stavropol region. Who are you?
Vasily from the Komi Republic.
Vasily from the Komi Republic. Got it.
Although, in response to the question, hey, who are you? I would like to answer with the phrase, from the actor who played Miloslavsky, an artist of theaters great and small.
Okay, I get that, Vasily. What do you talk about on here, Vasily?
Well, primarily I've designated my geolocation as Ukraine for interactions. I genuinely enjoy conversing with Ukrainians because they tend to be quite an impulsive people, but for completely understandable reasons. So, yeah. Um, Therefore, I communicate with them and, so to speak, obtain first-hand information directly from them.
And what kind of first-hand information can you actually obtain if the individual resides somewhere in western Ukraine and, just like you, relies solely on the internet for their information?
Well, logically speaking, those who are directly engaged in the actions, or those who are nearly involved in the actions, like you and I, well, for some of them, this chat roulette serves as their front line. Um,
So what exactly is the type of information you're gleaning in that manner?
well, it's not that I'm trying to glean information, but rather I'm exchanging viewpoints. What their thoughts are, what my thoughts are, what
What questions do you ask?
like when will the special military operation end?
Nobody knows. That's a foolish question. One should inquire about the causes, about personal sentiments. What purpose does it serve?
Nobody knows the reasons, right?
How so? Everyone has their own opinion. I have my own opinion on the reasons. Do you have your own opinion?
Could you share your views on the SMO's causes?
Of course I can.
And then I'll explain my opinion.
Yes, please. In my view, our society is completely uninformed about both the history of Ukraine and the traditions of the Ukrainian people. We possess no understanding whatsoever of Ukraine. I live closer to Ukraine. I have Ukrainian roots, so I know a little about what Ukraine is, and I know a bit of their history. However, our society has no concept. For some reason, it's considered a part of Russia. And when Mr. Putin declared in his article that Ukraine had been created by the Bolsheviks, well, our society fell for this, because they fundamentally don't know what Ukraine truly is. And the ultimate aim is to dismantle Ukraine as a sovereign state, and the Ukrainian people as a distinct nation. This is my perspective. Do you hold a different view?
Well, my opinion is more that the vast amount of disinformation being spread, which is disseminated through all media sources, not just official ones, but unofficial ones as well, reflects only one primary goal. And the real problem is, wherever our country has intruded, we've lost.
What do you mean we've lost?
The Soviet Union started a war with the Finns.
And is the Soviet Union our country? What country do you live in?
No, I'm just telling you this in a general way.
Ah, in that case, you could also begin all the way back with the Grand Duchy of Moscow.
Any aggressor, where the country was the aggressor, it got defeated.
Give me examples, but only for Russia. Was Russia defeated in the Chechen War?
Well, if you consider paying tribute since 2007 and granting the Chechens some sort of special status, somehow shielding them from the laws in various ways, then yes, there are certain points worth considering.
Well, that's not a clear loss, as you're trying to say. It's a specific compromise. Where else has Russia been beaten in the last 30 years? And don't use the Soviet Union as an example. Russia.
Well, I think Ukraine will be another bone of contention.
Well, that's what you think. You claimed we always lost. Then you started citing the Soviet Union as an example. That's incorrect. Where has Russia suffered defeat in the last 30 years?
Well, right now, only in one war, if we're talking about recent history.
From modern history. It starts in the 19th century, if not the 17th.
Okay, well, that's fine. But just consider the situation. Any aggressor has consistently faced defeat.
Not always. For instance, I'll give you an example. As far back as the 1960s, Turkey occupied northern Cyprus. To this day, that territory has been annexed by Turkey. Turkey is the aggressor, and the Cypriots are the victims of aggression. Did the Turks get defeated? It's been, I don't know how many years, but about 60 years since then.
Well, yes,
There, you see,
there are precedents. Okay, fine. But what about the Russian-speaking world? Where are the conflicts happening in Eurasia? Not Eurasia, but here in our post-Soviet space. Then why did the Soviet Union lose?
look, let's separate the issues. Let's try to compartmentalize things. Either we're discussing Russia or we're discussing the Soviet Union. Which one shall we focus on?
All right, let's talk about it this way.
I'm curious, why do you consider the Soviet Union your country? Were you born in the Soviet Union? See, I was born in the Soviet Union.
I was born in the Komi ASSR, that is, in 1988, when it was still.
So you lived in the Soviet Union for just 3 more years. You don't truly have a personal understanding of the Soviet Union, do you? Why do you perceive the Soviet Union as your own nation? How is it truly yours in your opinion? There were 15 republics. So let's make a clear distinction. Either we're discussing the experience of the Soviet Union.
To understand it as my state, the one where I was born in my time.
Okay, not.
Just because I didn't live there as a fully conscious individual doesn't mean I shouldn't be able to process this information and.
No, you see, birthplace doesn't determine your connection. You could have been born, for example, if your parents were in the military somewhere in Germany, you could have been born in Czechoslovakia. Would you have perceived Germany or Czechoslovakia as your native country back then? No, certainly not. You have spent your entire conscious life within the Russian Federation. I have spent the majority of my life in the Soviet Union, but I do not consider the Soviet Union to be my country. I reside in the state known as the Russian Federation. I am a citizen of the Russian Federation, so let's just agree, purely for the sake of argument. Either we rely on the experience of the Soviet Union, in which case we could also rely on the experience of the Moscow Principality from the 13th century or something, or we could be discussing modern Russia. After all, it's only, 32 years old? So what exactly should our conversation be about?
But at this rate, for some reason, I have a suspicion that by the end of this century, there probably won't be much left of Russia. It will again be a multitude of small regions.
Well, that's just your suspicion, for example. I might be.
It's an opinion, it's my opinion.
I can agree with it, or I can disagree with it, you know.
I can explain how I see it.
Yes?
First, the division among people.
But how? Hold on. You live in Komi, is that correct? Are there schools in Komi Permyak or Komi where instruction is given in the local language from 1st to 11th grade?
Yes, it's not actually about the classes, but rather about the relationships people have with one another.
They are completely disunited, aren't they? What do you say in Komi there are mass protests and the Komi people want to protect their language and their literature? No, there isn't.
There's nothing like that.
But
It is enough to set just one such precedent.
what?
Right now, Russia has created this precedent by illegally annexing 4 territories, and 5.
And so what? Was there any reaction at all? In 2014, when Russia illegally annexed Crimea, what kind of response was that? Crimea is ours! Hooray! Death to the Ukrainians!
And everyone believed it right up until Vladimir himself stated.
And right now, 80% of people still believe that. And now 80% believe this. It's a different matter that our mobilization has started now. And soon the coffins will be coming, not individually, but in large quantities, arriving in droves. This could potentially have an impact on the Russian population.
Similar to how it was in the Soviet Union at the time, with the coffins arriving from Afghanistan.
So how did that truly impact anything? The war in Afghanistan began in 1979. Did that have any effect? Absolutely none at all. This did not change until Gorbachev emerged and initiated his policy of perestroika. What has this got to do with the general populace? The population grieved for their young men but remained inactive, because the loss of merely 13,000 soldiers and officers represented a mere drop in the ocean for the then 250 million strong Soviet Union.
That's the official version. Numbers are often downplayed.
No, this is the official version, and it's quite close to the truth. I'm telling you this as a professional historian. Therefore,
How so? And what do you think about the casualties now? 5,000.
it's difficult now. No, well look, if Konashenkov said that less than 6,000 died, but a mobilization of 300,000 is needed, it just doesn't add up. And the funniest thing is, have you read Putin's latest decree on mobilization?
Well, no, I haven't read it.
Well, you should read it. After the 6th point, it goes to the 8th point. The 7th point is classified, and in the 7th point, most likely, is the number of those mobilized. Putin said verbally that it's 300,000, but what the 7th point contains, we do not know. It could be 300, it could be 600, it could be 1,000,000, it could be 1.5 million, we simply don't know. And when the coffins begin to arrive in large numbers, then perhaps something will shift. But I seriously doubt that. There is no national self-awareness in the regions. Well, you live in Komi, and there's no national self-awareness there.
It's nowhere.
It's nowhere to be found. So you're saying Russia will fall apart, but why would it fall apart? Based on what principle? A nationalistic principle? No.
Well, how long do you think they can keep people in fear?
Russia has always been held by fear. I say this as a historian. Was there ever a period of democracy in Russian history? Well, there was a period of democracy from February to October of 17.
I don't believe in democracy, I just don't.
What do you believe in? In autocracy?
No, in a conscious society.
A conscious society is termed a democracy. An unconscious one is known as an autocracy.
In that case, if we consider democracy to be a conscious society where rights and benefits are distributed evenly among all segments of society,
that's socialism, but it's not democracy. You are confusing these very different concepts, particularly socialism with democracy. So you're basically a left-wing social democrat, let's say, based on your views. So what?
maybe I honestly haven't looked into those things.
Well, I can give you a hint.
So people, let's say,
It is indeed freedom of choice. It's not about thinly spreading wealth among everyone. No, democracy ultimately results in both the wealthy.
if there's a hierarchy again, rich and poor, then
It always will be. For as long as humanity has existed 40,000 years, it always has.
humanity will destroy itself.
Well, that's really too much. Let's not take such a broad view. We're now shifting from the topic of war to the global destruction of humanity. That is significantly different.
All right, let's get back to the topic of war.
Yes, you said that you think Russia will collapse. And I'm telling you, I just don't see any preconditions for that to happen. Absolutely none. Not even one.
Well, if one KGB agent just replaces another, maybe nothing will change.
Are there any preconditions suggesting that something different could happen?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. So why were you so hopeful for Russia's collapse if there's no... A. National self-awareness is absent in the regions, yet there is some regional self-awareness. For example, here in our Stavropol region, we understand that we're not entirely Russian, nor are we truly Ukrainian. Most of our population here has Ukrainian roots, but we identify as neither fully Ukrainian nor truly Russian. Should we really declare the independence of the Stavropol region? That's simply unrealistic. I've had discussions with Siberians about this. Siberians possess a distinct geographical consciousness. They are all Russian, yet they proudly declare, "We are Siberians." There are some seeds of that, but that's it. Well, in my opinion, you confuse desire with reality, don't you see?
Right, so what does that mean? Is there a possibility, that is to say, a significant likelihood of Russia achieving victory in this current conflict?
A high probability of that is out of the question. However, some probability does exist. There's also a somewhat different possibility, that, for example, with the help of an ally, the Ukrainians could manage to drive our forces out of Ukrainian territory. There, and somewhere.